Reading anymore. It was 2 p.m. when my child died.
Despite the huge logistical challenge, the health department is introducing both vaccinations at the same time in an effort to combat pneumonia and diarrhea. Together, they account for more than 20% of children's deaths under 5 in Ghana. UNICEF is supporting a new cold chain supply system, which will keep the vaccines at the right temperature, all the way from the capital city to rural clinics.
UNICEF has been our procurement partner since the beginning of Gavi, and all of the vaccines we've seen here on this trip come through UNICEF procurement. They've been amazing partners, particularly as we now move into a more active market-shaping effort.
Vaccinations do more than save lives. They save time and money spent on medications for sick children, easing financial strain on poor families.
When children are sick, mothers are not able to sleep. They cannot go to work, they cannot go to school. Some of the money, little money they have in the household, they spend it on caring for these children. And then the children themselves are suffering.
Healthy children mean a healthy country. One drop in the mouth and a prick in a child's leg is giving Ghana a shot at a brighter future. You've been watching UNICEF Television. For more information, visit unicef.org. Unite for Children.
The expanded program on immunization in Ghana began informally around 1974 and formally in a structured manner, I think in line with the Almaty Declaration on Primary Health Care around 1978. And from that time, we provided for vaccination against 6 disease entities: the oral polio, then the vaccine was given, then the DPT, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, measles, and then BCG. So that continued till 1992, when we introduced yellow fever as part, and it continued till in 2002. We've added 2 more antigens. So we now provide for 9 disease entities. We measure to make sure that the diseases we are vaccinating against are reducing in incidence. And we've measured this. We've seen that some diseases are on the decline. And we've made quite progress, a lot of progress in polio as a disease, and also in measles, where for the past 8 years, we've not had any death from measles in Ghana. And as for diphtheria, throughout my practice as a doctor from 83, I've never seen. So we've made, and whooping cough too has gone down. So we made quite a lot of progress as far as immunization is concerned. And we have we are more or less trying to even bring in more and more, because the Millennium Development Goals need to be reached, reducing under 5 mortality. And we see the potential of vaccination in helping to reduce under 5 mortality. Especially the 2 new vaccines we are targeting are against pneumococcal disease and then the rotavirus disease. So we submitted and we are in the planning stage. And it's our hope that by 2012, we can introduce either 1 or 2, depending on availability of resources. And we've made quite a considerable progress in coverage, beginning around the 70s and 80s, in the 80s and 90s, with coverages of around 70–80%. But now, almost all the antigens were around 89, between 85 to 90%, which is quite good. And the disease incidence has gone down. But immunization, you need to continue in order to sustain gains. And any reduction in incidence can make the disease bounce back. And that is what we need to prevent so that we continue. We are on course and can serve as a good example for our neighbors, and then together as a global effort. Of course, we need to play our part so that total eradication of disease like measles can be achieved, and reduction in disease incidence can be maintained, and in mortality can also be maintained. Immunization is one of the most cost-effective interventions, and the visibility in saving life is tremendous, and we need to put in money for that.
Good evening, viewers. Welcome to your #1 health show, Health Zone on Bina TV. I have with me here Mrs. Felicia Osei. This evening we are talking about immunization. Just last month, I think, there was a nationwide immunization where our community health nurses were going house to house to give children immunizations. We are here to talk one-on-one with our principal community health nurse, Felicia Osei of Salvation Army Clinic, Pokumlemle. She will tell us all we need to know about immunizations and answer some of the questions, our concerns out there. I have quite a few questions here I want to ask her. Welcome once again, Madam Felicia.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's about immunization. Since we have a community health nurse here, welcome. Why don't you tell us about immunization? Tell us about immunization.
Okay. Before I go into immunization, I want to say good evening to all viewers out there. Then to the question, immunization is making an individual fortify for a particular, let's say, a particular infection, meaning you introducing something into an individual which will fight or which will be a barrier to infection.
Okay. Okay. So jamaa sanungu deni nini na kurabi Mahmoud watigi mun kawo muku Health Zone kuma kan Bina TV. Amranchenga muna da bululuwa kyawiya nan ga sun Felicia Osei. Ita principal community health nurse ne ta zo mu fira batun immunization bi ma'ana alluran da muke ba yara da ake ce musu wayin nasa na mata tambaya na tambaye ta me za ta ce ma immunization haka ce immunization me yake gwadawa inji ta wai immunization ne kamar a sa magani cikin mutum tun ciwo bai zo ba in ya so ya sare ciwo. It's as simple, putting some drug into the body to prevent something haka tace isa tun ciwon bai zo ba in ya so ya sare ciwon bi ma'ana kafin ciwon ya zo ya shiga cikin system shi maganin na ciki ko to prevent those things. Isa a takaice abin da take gwadawa kenan. Madam Felicia, how important is immunization to the development of an infant?
As I said earlier on, or in our definition, trying to know the meaning of immunization, we talked about being a creating or being a barrier to infection. So I'll say one, it protects the individual from an infection or a disease. And secondly, to babies, it makes them grow healthy. And then also we will say it prevents generational, as in it breaks the chain of infection in the future or in the next generation. So those are the three importance of immunization.
Okay. Okay, sai sa yanzu ga tai bayani game da abin da yasa ya kamata mu ba yara immunization. Bi ma'ana mu je wayin mu kai yara wayin a ta ba su immunization. Inji to yana da important because na farko yana protect yaro da infection. Kamar yadda muka riga muka fadi. Inde ko ciwon bai zo ba aka bayar, in ciwon ya zo ya iske maganin wurin. Abin na counteract shi. Isa maganin na prevent bai ba ciwon ma hanya ma ya shiga. Kun gane ko. Na biyu ne yana ba yaran karfin jiki. Aka riga aka immunize yaran yana ba su karfin jiki. Na uku kuma ne yana break change it or yana break the chain of infection. When be yara na infection I was pouring high for much ma then I high for yara Angela so ko wani time ciwo gudan nan no ke zuwa yake damu yaro. Isa aka bayar yana break chain infection. Dan kan abin da ke nan ma yake kan damu mace in ta riga ta haife yara. It breaks it. Yana ya zo bai bar abin kuma ya ci gaba. Yana sad da shi kan wani wuri kin ga kuma in kika fara kai yaran ki wuyi wannan kananan ciwo ne da ke damun su ne ya riga ya bace kenan. Okay, in case the very first stage is missed, the very first immunization that's supposed to be given to the child, in case the mother misses it, well, you know some people have babies at home and all that, so they don't get to immunize the child. So in case you miss the very first dose, what do you do about it?
I presume we are talking about the first dose, which is BCG,
yes,
and polio O. Actually, BCG can be taken later, before the child turns 1 year.
Okay.
Before the child turns 1 year, you can still take BCG.
Okay, so I think that it's never too late.
It's never
if
too late.
You have the baby at home or you have the baby somewhere,
yes,
where you didn't get to give the child the very first one, you can still take it.
You can do it later before child turns 1 year.
Okay.
Okay. And then the polio O, which is supposed to be taken with the BCG, you missed that after 2 weeks.
Okay.
So if child is 2 weeks older, you can't take the polio O.
But with the very first one, you can
very
take it till the child is 1 year old.
Yes,
okay.
I said BCG.
The BCG. Okay. Jama'a don so dewa wani bi wasu na nan ba su zuwa hospital suna zama gida su haifu. Wasu kuma na nan suna kauyuka wasu areas da ba magunguna. Akwai very first dose dai kar haife yaro yau cikin kamar mu ce cikin cities. Normally in ka haife yaro yau ngana ya kamata a baka the first dose in BCG nan. Sai sana mata tambaya isan ka je ka haife yaro ba ba shi ba ko maybe an haife yaron gida ba yi an ba shi wannan immunization nan ba. Isa ya kenan don wasu na nan ba su iya sun yi ba shikenan wai an kare. Isa ce no. Inde ka haife yaron gida ko wani da ba yi an bayar ba ana yi a bayar don wannan allura ne yana nan har yaro ya samu 1 year old. Bai ma'ana shekara kenan. Isa yana nan isa in muna da yara gida an haife su, you had a baby at home and or you had a baby in a rural area and the baby didn't get the BCG shot. Community health nurse is telling us it's never too late. You can always take the baby because the baby can take the shot till around 1 year old. So you don't give up and say, oh, okay, when I had the baby, I couldn't give him the immunization, so I continue. No, you can still give. As long as the baby is not beyond 1 year, you can still give. That's the definition she gave us. It's an ya bashi. Ngai fe ya rugida ba samu maganin farko ba an ya koma da shi a bashi har ya samu shekara. Thank you very much. There is word out there that a lot of children suffer from they get reactions after immunizations. What's your take on that?
Reactions? Actually, yes. Some children react, just a few number react to some of the vaccines being introduced into their bodies.
Okay.
Yes.
They do react. Okay,
They do.
so in what forms do the reactions come in?
Yes, some present with urticaria rashes. There is the small rashes, reddish,
Okay.
on their skin. Others run temperature as high as 38 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
And others too get discomfort with the site.
Okay.
There is a painful site and swollen site too.
Oh, okay. Esa yanzu nga na tambaye ta wai aka kai yaran weyi. Wadansu momi na cewa kamar aka ci aka ba su allura na aka zo suna ganin sakiya reactions daban-daban cikin yaran. Isa ina tambayan ta wani abu ne gaskiyan ciki aka community health ne suke ba da wannan alluran nan. Isa mana abu ta za ta fadi wai wani bi yana iya happy wai yaran wadansu yana bar jikinsu na zafi wadansu na yana iya ba su wani rashes kadan jikinsu da wasu abubuwa. Isa akwai dai matsaloli kadan amma akwai yanda su ma suke yin da shi. Are there any major complications apart from the minor reactions you just listed?
Actually, there is only one that they normally present. That is the shortness in breath.
Yeah.
Shortness in breath.
Okay.
Some people come out with this complications.
Okay.
But apart from that, we have not heard of any severity of or any complication of the vaccine yet.
Oh, okay. So as a parent or as parents, what do you look out for to realize the child might be reacting or has reacted to immunization?
One, because the site is swollen a bit, and there might be pain.
Okay.
Child will feel discomfort, and there will be a lot of crying.
Okay.
And then also child will present, some might present fever.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the swelling, the crying is might be due to the
pain.
discomfort, the pain
Yes.
there, and some might also present fever.
Fever.
So that means the child is does that mean the child is reacting to it? Okay. Okay, that's fine. It's okay.
Some too might come out with rashes.
Rashes,
Yes.
like you said earlier. Okay. It's not as parents, yeah, you can get yaro weighing, aka komo da shi. Wani abu ne za mu yi mu duba jikin yaro wace mu ga kamar yaron ga yana react to abin da aka yi. Wani bi wurin nan na kumbura. Wani bi kuma ga yaron na ta kuka bai bari. It's because of the pains. Maganin da aka sa nan yake cause wannan. Jikin wadansu na zafi, wadansu kuma na samun rashes kan jikinsu. A takaice abubuwan ga duka na iya happen inda aka ba da immunization nan. So when all these reactions happen, this is Felicia, what is the immediate intervention in case of these reactions that you advise?
Okay, depending on the reactions or what the child is going through. If it is fever, we need to bring the fever down.
Okay.
Sometimes the child might be so little for you to tap with sponge.
Okay.
So you need to give something like paracetamol
Okay.
and other analgesics to make it calm,
Okay.
the fever to calm down.
Okay.
And then other ones like the painful site or swollen site.
Yeah.
Normally we do advise mothers to handle that place carefully. And then if it is worse, they use a cold compress.
Cold compress.
Yes, to just
On
massage
swelling.
the place.
Okay. Okay, so isa yanzu nga na tambaye ta inda abubuwan da ta gwada mu nan ga fever, swelling, or the rashes da abubuwan ga inda ka riga ka gane wani abu kai zaka yi daga gida ka tanye yaro sai ce wai zafin jikin da kukan nan duka targeting shi ne ka reduce fever, ka reduce zafin jikin, and normally don yaron ba su ba su wani complicated medications ko yana ba su kamar paracetamol da abubuwan ya so ya bari ya zo kasa kuma wurin kumburin na so da yawa su suna recommend kamar I use cold compress abu mai sanyi kamar dai haska ka sa wani abu cikin ice ka rufe shi da handkerchief ko wani abu shi ka diddibiya kai haka ta diddigawa haka nan ba ma sai shi ba tattaba shi. If you do that you complicate it. So like she said, the immediate interventions that you can make when you realize these things is to reduce the fever, which is very paramount and very important, because the more the fever persists, it also turns into something else for the baby. So it's important to reduce fever. And the most common drug they use to reduce fever is paracetamol in babies, and it's normally given according to the baby's age and the baby's weight. And then she requested that you use cold compress. That's what they advise and tell all parents. You handle the site with care, like she said, and use cold compress. You can normally use ice pack, and then you can wrap a handkerchief or something, and then you use it as cold compress. I think that's about it. That's the immediate intervention. So if you are faced with any situation like this, you know your community health nurse came to you free of charge on Bina TV with Ravi Watigi as host to tell you to give cold compresses and monitor the fever, and then everything will be fine. Madam Felicia, can you take us through your immunization chart, the whole schedule, like from beginning till the last dose, so that they know what to do from step by step?
We normally advise mothers, pregnant women, lactating mothers, and nursing mothers that they should be bringing their children and babies to weigh-in or to the CWC, that is the Child Welfare Clinic, for immunization. Immunization starts right from birth. So at birth, we give vaccine, BCG, and polio O, which is taken at birth. Then in 6 weeks, we repeat polio 1, and then we give penta, which they normally call it 5-in-1. So 5-in-1 entails the diphtheria, the tetanus, the hepatitis B, then pertussis, and then hemophilus type 1, making 5 for penta. And then we take pneumococcal injection, and then rota orally. Okay. So oral for 6 weeks are 2, and then injectables are 2. But at the left side, we give 5-in-1, which is the penta. Oh. So in 10 weeks, we repeat the same. That is the second dose of the penta, the second dose of the polio, the second dose of the rota, and then the first immunization you took. We repeat at 10 weeks. And then 14 weeks, we repeat the penta, we repeat the pneumococcal. And then instead of rota, we give IPV, which is the inactivated polio virus or vaccine, inactivated polio vaccine. That one, you take the oral one to work in the digestive system, and then the injectable one at the right side to go just straight to the bloodstream to fight polio. So at 14 weeks, you are receiving 2 injections at the right side, and then 1 injection at the left side. And then month 6, you take vitamin A, the 100,000 IU. And then 9 months, you come to take yellow fever and measles, rubella. Measles is taken at the left, and then yellow fever at the right. And then at 12 months, we give vitamin A, that is the red one. Okay. And then at age 1.5, that is 18 months, you repeat the measles, rubella, and then you take meningococcal men A at 1.5. So 1.5, you are taking 2 injections at the upper arm, left and right. And then you repeat 6 months vitamin A, so child is 5 years.
Okay.
So that is the schedule.
Okay.
For
so with all these doses outlined, is there something that is put in place to check the mothers from, like, to check they are coming in and going out? What I'm trying to say is that do they really follow the schedule? And if they don't, what happens when they skip some of the schedules?
Okay, as we said earlier, we have their records book, which we write the next visits or when they are due for the next immunization. So if mother, we normally advise them that if they are traveling and they think their due date will be there or their date will be due there, they should carry along the book so that they can take immunization anywhere in the facility or at the facility. And then when they skip the date, we compare according to the age of the child. So like I said, if child is at birth, he or she receives the BCG and polio, but after 2 weeks, you can't take polio O. So if the child is more than 2 weeks, we will only give the BCG and then skip the polio. Yes, and go to the next one.
It means the child will be prone to getting polio. in case he's exposed because the immunization has been missed.
Yes, that is why polio is being actually
is done periodically all over the place, so that those who have missed it. Okay, so there was a nationwide immunization recently. What was it targeted at? Was it polio?
It was polio.
Oh, okay.
Oral polio.
Oh, okay, so in a bid to reach all those at home who haven't received the doses here, that's how come sometimes the nationwide immunization is done.
There.
Oh, okay. Okay, Jama. Now it's a bit about way in gallery that beginning halkashi. Ta gwagwa damuna. Tana tambeta wannan suna nan da wayin nan ma ba su zuwa. Wasu kuma na zuwa amma suna ciccirewa ciki. Da je yau ba ta zuwa gobe ta je jibi ba ta zuwa. Wasu suna nan dai ne like in dai suka so she su je. Isa wannan kuma she ya kenan. Shi ne take cewa wai wasu wai ana ba ku card ko da ake zazzana abubuwan nan ciki. Wasu matan na nan suna iya su zo shi a ga kaman akwai hanya ciki ba yi ba wai kaman polio haka in kai an aka fara in dai yaro ya riga ya wuce 2 weeks ba ya baka polio nan kuma haka nan kuma BCG nan kamar yadda ta ce wai BCG ana iya bayar har shekara isa kaka ce ya wuce isa in kuka zo ana duban wanda bai wuce ba da an ya bayar na an bayar but wanda ya wuce nan they leave it like that naka ce an bar shi haka nan you know what that means. It means the yankan na wannan immunization na yaro bai samu ba. It's an yaro ya miss polio. It means when polio comes into contact with the child might get infected because the child hasn't been immunized. So we are begging of you. It's actually a plea for you to try your very best to get the children immunized. She said something. She said if even you decide to travel out, you can take your book along so that wherever you find yourself, you are able to immunize the child. You don't go and come because okay, oh, madam, me too fine. They've been doing it, don't they?
They do.
They come and tell you, madam, me too fine. Anything I'm meant to me here, madam, me too fine. But baby, I'll call you. Community health nurses, there are so many towns, even the most remote areas have nurses like that who are doing that. So you just carry your book along. And then you just go and get your child immunized, provided the child is with you. So it's not good to delay. Some parents claim during the nationwide exercise, before I forget, that your people came around, they came to give the doses of polio that you mentioned.
Yes.
And then they told them they would give second doses. There are people at home waiting for that second dose to come, but they are saying that the nurses are not coming around anymore. What do you have to tell them? Because they are still expecting. In fact, someone inboxed me and sent me this message, so I wanted to ask you so that you tell them something. I know the person might not be the only one. There might be others who are also thinking same, and they are waiting for people to come back, and yet I can see you in the hospitals working. So what do you have to tell them?
Okay. Actually, I'll be in their shoes and then apologize for the nurses not reaching you for the second time. It might be the fault of the nurses, or it could be that they came in and they didn't find you. What I have to say is, when you were informed that maybe there would be a second round, and you waited for maybe the first, second, third day, and they've not come, I beg of you, you can take your child to the nearest hospital. Maybe they have not got to your destination yet, or they escaped. So please and please, try and let them have it. But now I think they are done with it. Okay. But we still pray that polio will not infect your child at home.
Oh. So Jamal, now what a somebody. When you question your sugar, what are parents take away? Sunzo cikin last month na aka je gida da gida aka ba yaran polio. An ce an komo kuma zo a yi second dose. Amma wanda ta send mini question, wai har yanzu ba zo an yi second dose ba kuma suna gida. Yasa na tambaye ta sa wannan nan yasa she ya kenan. Don mutane na gida suna jira. Wai maybe an zo ba yi an kai location nan ku ba. Don mutane na da yawa su ma ba su da yawa. Sauransu kuma sun zo suna aiki. Isa yanzu gan kana gida 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, time ya kai ba ba da dosing ba, you go to the clinic. In ka zo suna nan, ya so a bayar. Don yanzu ga sun duka sun komo an zo ana aiki kuma. ba in suka bar nan ga wurin aiki kuma suka je wurin an bar baya kenan ba kowa shi yasa sun zo sun bi ku gida na farko, so you also come to them and then come for the immunization. So if they are not coming, she's pleading with everyone. In last month, it was last month.
It was last month.
Last month, and she go gidon kwa polio immunization and there is a second dose. The zabaya. Young kukai yaran immunization centers na magungu na nana kukai su amuku. What are your final words and recommendations? Your final words, anything you have to say, and advice you want to give mothers, and just something to wrap up. We are about to close.
Okay, thank you so much, mothers and parents out there. Immunization doesn't end at 1.5. What we have realized is that after the 1.5 doses, parents don't turn to the clinic anymore. We are pleading that immunization for children ends at 5 and 5 years. So please, make sure your child receives all the immunization, and there you can stand out and say my child is well protected. So please, do well and send your children to
the centers for immunization.
To the centers for immunization till 5.
Thank you very much. So atakaice karshe maganan karshen ta wai immunization ends at 5. Wai tana ba kowa hankuri. Immunization ba yaro ya ci 1.5 an kare ba. Ya kamata a dinga zuwa har yaro ya ci 5 years. Mun saba da yin wannan, mu duka we fall in that category. Sometimes in yaro ya samu shekara 1.5 sai a ce wai an kare kenan. But immunization schedule yana nan har 5 years. Isa mu yi hankuri mu samu lokaci mu kai yaran nan a immunizing su har su samu 5, in bai shi ya samu 5 sai ka saka man ka kare kenan yaro ya samu lafiyan da ya kamata. In ya suka ya saura yana zazzabi kadan kanana to jama'a nan ga damu da sa'aya. All too soon our time is up and we will have to end. You join us same time 4 p.m. next week on Health Zone on Bina TV. Assalamu alaikum.
In Ghana began informally around 1974 and formally in a structured manner, I think in line with the Almaty Declaration on Primary Health Care around 1978. And from that time, we provided for vaccination against 6 disease entities: the oral polio, then the vaccine was given, then the DPT, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, measles, and then BCG. So that continued till 1992, when we introduced yellow fever as part, and it continued till in 2002. We've added 2 more antigens. So we now provide for 9 disease entities. We measure to make sure that the diseases we are vaccinating against are reducing in incidence. And we've measured this. We've seen that some diseases are on the decline. And we've made quite progress, a lot of progress in polio as a disease, and also in measles, where for the past 8 years, we've not had any death from measles in Ghana. And as for diphtheria, throughout my practice as a doctor from 83, I've never seen. So we've made, and whooping cough too has gone down. So we made quite a lot of progress as far as immunization is concerned. And we have we are more or less trying to even bring in more and more, because the Millennium Development Goals need to be reached, reducing under 5 mortality. And we see the potential of vaccination in helping to reduce under 5 mortality, especially the 2 new vaccines we are targeting are against pneumococcal disease and then the rotavirus disease. So we submitted and we are in the planning stage. And it's our hope that by 2012, we can introduce either one or two, depending on availability of resources. And we've made quite a considerable progress in coverage, beginning around the 70s and 80s. In the 80s and 90s, with coverages of around 70–80%, but now almost all the antigens were around 89, between 85 to 90%, which is quite good. And the disease incidence has gone down. But immunization, you need to continue in order to sustain gains. And any reduction in incidence can make the disease bounce back. And that is what we need to prevent so that we continue. We are on course and can serve as a good example for our neighbors, and then together as a global effort. Of course, we need to play our part so that total eradication of disease like measles can be achieved and reduction in disease incidence can be maintained, and in mortality can also be maintained. Immunization is one of the most cost-effective interventions, and the visibility in saving life is tremendous, and we need to put in money for that.
This week, Ghana celebrated the launch of 2 new vaccines. The immunizations will tackle the leading causes of diarrhea and pneumonia, 2 of the biggest killers of children under 5. Ghana is the first country in Africa to introduce these 2 vaccines at the same time, and their launch is being watched around the world. Today, a large crowd is lining up at the immunization clinic. Cynthia Akufu walked nearly 5 kilometers to get here. Her 2-month-old daughter Angela was one of the first children in Ghana protected against diarrhea and pneumonia.
A town crier announced that these 2 diseases could kill my child. I panicked, and I was determined to come and get the vaccination.
UNICEF and Gavi Alliance are supporting the government of Ghana to launch this campaign. Grace Ayabu's baby died when 2 oxygen tanks used to treat her pneumonia broke down.
They tried to resuscitate her for some time, but she wasn't breathing anymore. It was 2 p.m. when my child died.
Despite the huge logistical challenge, the health department is introducing both vaccinations at the same time in an effort to combat pneumonia and diarrhea. Together, they account for more than 20% of children's deaths under 5 in Ghana. UNICEF is supporting a new cold chain supply system, which will keep the vaccines at the right temperature all the way from the capital city to rural clinics.
UNICEF has been our procurement partner since the beginning of Gavi, and all of the vaccines we've seen here on this trip come through UNICEF procurement. They've been amazing partners, particularly as we now move into a more active market-shaping effort.
Vaccinations do more than save lives. They save time and money spent on medications for sick children, easing financial strain on poor families.
When children are sick, mothers are not able to sleep. They cannot go to work, they cannot go to school. Some of the money, little money they have in the household, they spend it on caring for these children. And then the children themselves are suffering.
Healthy children mean a healthy country. One drop in the mouth and a prick in a child's leg is giving Ghana a shot at a brighter future. You've been watching UNICEF television. For more information, visit unicef.org. Unite for Children.